This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 13th, 2025 public meeting for the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission. We can call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. We'll start with the first agenda item, which is roll call. I'll start. Latrice Adams, Chair, present. Secretary Matthew.
Present.
All right. Um, Member Dr. Barnes. Member Sharon Hyde.
Present.
All right. Awesome. I think, oh, yay, we got quorum. Praise God. All right. So we do have quorum. All right. If additional LPC members join, we'll make sure to acknowledge them on the record. Now we'll move to item 2, which is public comment. Um, we didn't, wait, we did receive some items via email. However, we'll acknowledge public commenters that are present. Chet, did you have a public comment today?
I do have one.
Okay.
Let's say, Patricia, I'm going to send you an email that has 4 attachments that I'm referring to.
Okay.
That'll be on the email, and I'm going to share it with you. I want the school board to be aware of the history of lead poisoning in Memphis. We've been addressing lead exposure since 2000 with the formation of Lamont Owen Research and Training Center, open with state approval to teach lead certification classes. The first attachment is to EPA and Environmental Justice in 2014, explaining we needed more assistance. The second attachment, the letter to Alonzo Weaver in 2022, demonstrates the effort we put forward in trying to address lead exposures from the water. The third attachment, the Memphis Lead Elimination Action Plan, outlines the 4 steps developed by the community with the help of EPA that outline how we can eliminate lead exposures in Memphis. All of the steps are being addressed, with the most important being community awareness, which we are doing a poor job of sharing our knowledge. The fact that our school system thinks it's okay for children to drink low levels of lead is unacceptable. Our city doesn't have enough money to address all of the ways the community people are being exposed. We can share knowledge at a minimum cost. The sterilization plan in South Memphis is an example how advancement in science revealed that process was much more dangerous than what they thought. Lead is a toxin, and advancements in science has proven lead is extremely dangerous, and there is no safe level. The fourth attachment, is a report on the 20 years of research done here in Memphis to identify why over 90% of our children tested positive for lead since 1997. That continues to be the case. Some zip codes need zero tolerance for exposure because of the children's body burden. There is no safe level for lead.
All right. Thank you, Chet. We are gonna discuss this in greater detail about that a little bit later on in the agenda.
Will I be able to talk or I just have to listen?
Um, Technically,
Okay,
this is
I'll
the
listen.
listen.
I'll listen.
Okay. I do want to address some of the written correspondence that we received. So at the last meeting back in May, we got a report of some issues surrounding lead paint exposure at East High School, where there was a meeting that took place with the leadership team at both at East High School, the school principal, as well as one of the staff members from the district. There were recommendations that were provided around how to best remediate. It was a significant amount of back and forth for a couple of months. The biggest thing is that we wanted to get everything remediated before school started. Um, we are grateful for the partnership and support with LeBonner and other city and county agencies that also provided some guidance to the district and to East about how to best address the issue. There is a list of items that were recommended and to the best of my knowledge have been addressed with the exception of cleaning with, I think, on the picnic tables or lunch tables. Chip.
She didn't mention whether she had done that.
Okay, so there's still an outstanding inquiry there, and I can follow up on that. But essentially, I will share what the remediation items were. Um, the first one was to put down sod. They haven't put down the sod yet,
No.
correct? Okay, initially it was recommended that they put down mulch, but the district came back and said that with mulch may attract rodents. And so then the alternative was the sod, which we still need to follow back up because they need to put the sod down, especially because school has already been in session for a week. Also, all paint chips should have been cleaned around the perimeter of the building, regardless of the color of the chips. Um, Vacuum all sidewalks and entrances to the building and install floor mats in the hangout area under the tree in front of the school, clean up all debris, clean the tables, which I referenced, with a high phosphate cleaner, and install rubber mulch sod, or more permanent solution would be concrete. I do want to emphasize, going back to number three, that it needs to be an appropriate vacuum, a HEPA like vacuum, because there had been reportings that they were sweeping, which that's a big no-no. Who, Lord? Oh yeah, and a leaf blower. Um, Hold on just a second. If you're joining us, if you could mute for us, please. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, Also, give me 1 second. Okay. Also, pulling this back up. Okay. Cover the round opening at the front of the school where a window has been removed, but the trim has loose paint with 6 mil plastic. Clean up all nails, screws, glass, and wood debris around the entire area. There's an area at the front of the school where water can penetrate and flow into the basement, ultimately creating a moisture mold problem. Ooh. Some of the new windows still need sealing where there's old exposed metal and loose paint. Um, the district stated that their team would work on cleaning up the site before school starts. So it sounds like not all of these items have been completed before the start of school, because school started last week. So what this body can do is to circle back to the district and get a progress report on where they are with each of these commitments that they made. Um, all right. Any questions or comments from LPC members on that? Nope. Okay. Also, I received personally and through the LPC lots of concerns regarding the recent news that there were elevated levels of lead in water at 20 plus schools. That is actually another agenda item that we'll discuss in greater detail, which hopefully we'll have a discussion to talk about next steps, but definitely a huge area of concern, and rightfully so. But those are the two things that I have received for public comment. All right. All right, we can move to the third agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes from May 21st, 2025. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from May 21st. We do have quorum, so we can vote to approve the minutes. We just would need someone to make a motion. Okay, we have anyone a second?
Second.
All right. That motion passes. We are approving the minutes from May 21st. All right, moving to the fourth agenda item, we have a special guest and a special presentation. Um, Me and Sharon, Dr. Barnes was there too, and Chet had an opportunity to go to a TGAC conference around childhood lead poisoning prevention. I forgot when it was. When was that? Was it in June? Okay, in June, it seems so far away. We had an opportunity to meet some great folks that are working with the state, specifically around supporting schools and childcare centers with testing for lead and drinking water. So we are going to actually hear from them today. I'm going to actually, for those who have joined us virtually, I'll be presenting the slides, and then we also have them in person, and we have handouts here for everyone. Does everyone have the handouts? All right. All right, you good?
Great. Well, thank you, LaTracy. I appreciate everybody's time tonight, and thanks for having us to present. My name's Shannon. My background is in environmental engineering. I've worked in lead and drinking water for over 10 years, and I've tested schools and childcare facilities all over the country in at least 7 or 8 different states. I'm with Trupani, which is an engineering and consulting firm. We are headquartered out of Knoxville, Tennessee, but we've worked on lead and drinking water projects in 22 states and worked with thousands of different cities and water systems, collected and analyzed over 100,000 samples at schools and daycares, and helped implement remediation plans. Recently, TDEC, which is Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, contracted with us to implement their lead testing in school and child care centers program. So this program is funded by the EPA's WIN grant, which is the Water Infrastructure Improvements for the Nation grant. It's a completely voluntary program, but it can be used to meet other requirements. So as you all know, there's the state law for public schools to test for lead in drinking water here in Tennessee. So this program is voluntary, but it can be used by schools to meet that requirement. It also is eligible for child care centers are eligible to get free lead and drinking water testing. And then the grant was also recently amended, where now we can divert some of the funding to also help with remediation. And so for those most vulnerable child care facilities, if they have elevated results, we can assist them with helping come up with a remediation plan, but also being able to fund that. So I'm going to present a little bit about the program tonight, and really we're here just because we want to build awareness of it and help get the word out to the over 500 child care centers in Memphis that are eligible. We're here sampling some of them this week, and we'll continue to sample them, but we're doing some different efforts of postcards and phone calls, but really getting the word out to the community is what we're looking for assistance on. So looking a little bit at the program overview, that was a bit of a high-level overview. The program is overseen by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. Tennessee Department of Health is a partner on it, and then Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program is a partner as well as Choose Safe Places, and the Public Health Lab is working on analyzing the samples. We also have some other labs that are helping analyze the samples, as well as there's just a very high volume of samples that we're anticipating for this program. This program is eligible for public schools and then state-regulated child care centers. And as I mentioned, it offers free training, support, and sample analysis. Some of the child care facilities and schools, depending on the ADPI criteria, are eligible for our technicians to actually come out and collect the samples for them. So if they don't have the bandwidth to collect the samples themselves, we can come out and collect the samples for them. That applies to about 60% of the state and most of the schools and child care facilities in Memphis as well. And then also, if they would like to collect the samples themselves, they can complete a training, and then we can provide them with the materials and shipping information so that they can send the samples to the lab and get them analyzed. And then we also have technical assistance available to help with the remediation component. Program funding, again, is funded by US EPA. The state of Tennessee has gotten about $1 million from that grant to help implement this program, and we think that that should cover sampling at least 1,000 schools and child care facilities across the state over the next 2 years. There could be additional funding to come, but we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens with EPA funding. EPA also has a program called the 3 T's, and the program follows that guidance. That those 3 T's stand for training, testing, and taking action, and so that's what the program follows. So I'm sure that this isn't new to anybody here, but it's really important to test for lead in drinking water. And one of the things that we've seen is that there's just a lot of variability even within a single school. Oftentimes the water that comes into the building is safe, but then, there's either dead ends in the plumbing infrastructure, or there's lead solder that was used, or there's actually low levels of lead in the fixtures themselves or in the drinking fountains. The most recent update with the Reduction of Lead in Drinking Water Act was 2014, but we've tested buildings as new as 2020 and 2022 and still seen elevated levels of lead in the fixtures, or being attributed from fixtures or solder. So we know that lead is tasteless, odorless, and colorless in water, and testing is the only way to know that it's present. This example here is actually from a school in Tennessee in the Chattanooga area where we tested one classroom faucet and then we tested a drinking fountain right outside that classroom and saw two wildly different results, one with no lead detected, one with 27 parts per billion. So, we know that there's a lot of variability there. And we also know that there's no safe level of lead in drinking water. And so the action plan that we provide to the schools and childcare facilities helps them create a plan to reduce as much lead as possible. We don't provide kind of like a threshold where we advise them to take action, but we do ask that at minimum, anything that comes back at 15 or higher, we ask them to block off and make sure that kids can't use it until something can happen. But we do advise that there's no safe level of lead, and encourage action for all levels of lead. So the program steps are enrolling in the program, completing the program training, collecting water samples, and then receiving results and taking action. And so for enrolling in the program, any school or child care facility that's eligible can do that through an online form, or they can do it over the phone as well. We have a helpline that's available during regular business hours to help anybody that might not be comfortable enrolling over the computer. And then we have a program training as well that everybody receives after they sign up. And then we collect water samples and then provide the results and take action. There's also the ability to do multiple rounds of sampling or follow-up sampling. So if someone finds an elevated result and they decide to take action and they want to collect another sample to make sure that the fixture replacement or adding the filter worked, we can provide that through the program. So some of the activities that we're doing right now to promote awareness is we're sending out postcards here in the next couple of weeks to all of the child care facilities across the state that are eligible for the program. We're also, doing some flyers as well, and we're doing emails and phone calls. So we just finished getting all of the information for every child care facility in the state's email address, and so everybody is going to be getting an email and also be getting phone calls about the program as well. And we're reaching out to all of the child care facilities in the state, but we're doing it following a prioritization strategy that's been developed by the EPA. So that prioritizes things like median household income and percentage of children that are under 6, so that we're trying to target the higher risk areas first as we reach out to the child care facilities and schools. We also are working with different third-party organizations to support the program and provide information to the community, working with public water systems, working with nonprofit organizations, working with community members to help promote the program and get the awareness that this program exists and why people should participate. So these next slides provide more information on some of the steps that we talked about: enrolling in the program, providing training, and providing sampling. We also have a lot of templates available, including community notification templates, so that the schools and child care facilities can tell their parents about their participation in the program. And then we also are in the process of developing a public results portal so that anybody can go on and look at all of the sample results from the schools and child care facilities. I believe there's one version of that that's already live at tnleadtesting.org, which redirects to the state's webpage. We even have, when we go out and collect samples, we take photos of all of the sinks and everything, so all of that information is public, just to encourage transparency. And it's helpful for teachers too, because when we go around and collect samples, we put a little label on each sink and drinking fountain, and so that ID number matches on the online portal, so they can go in and look too and say, okay, sink 5 at my school, what was the result there, so that they know, what the result was for the sink or drinking fountain in their classroom. And then for the different types of water outlets that we collect samples from, We, talk to the school and childcare facility and encourage them to sample anything that could be used for drinking, food prep, teeth brushing, making bottles or anything like that. So any type of exposure, we encourage them to sample those water locations. We don't have a limit on the number of samples that we can collect for a school or childcare facility, so we try to have the sampling be as comprehensive as possible. And then, as I mentioned, we provide sample results along with an action plan to outline best practices and options regardless of result level, and then also a template so that schools and childcare facilities can provide that information to their community. When it comes to remediating lead in drinking water, remediation, one of the things that we say a lot, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There's no silver bullet to address lead, especially lead in drinking water. And so, sometimes if a sink can't be accessed by kids, it might be simple enough to remove that sink or to, post signs that it should only be used for hand washing and not for drinking. That's a lower cost solution. Sometimes a faucet mounted filter that's certified to remove lead, or a pitcher filter or an under sink filter can work. Sometimes replacing a fixture can work, or converting it to some type of filtered water outlet can be a really good solution. And sometimes, more extensive plumbing corrections are needed as well to address the source of lead. And we do have some resources available through the program to help provide, lead-free fixtures and filters. And then for the public results sharing, this is a requirement of the EPA WIN program, and we're going to have this public portal available online to provide all of that information. And each facility is assigned a unique program ID. So like I mentioned, every single sample that's collected in the state will have a unique number, and then it'll also have a description of where that sample was collected from, and all of that information provided. And we have our program support team available by email and helpline for any questions from either the participating schools and child care centers, but also from members of the public as well. So our opportunities here for engaging with the program, schools and child care facilities, the call to action is to enroll in the program. For water utilities, we're asking that they leverage this program to help with their lead and copper rule improvement, school and child care sampling requirement, and help promote the program to schools and child care centers in the area. For community members and different community partners, we're asking for support on raising awareness about the program. We have online a nominate a facility form, so anybody can go on and nominate a school or child care center, and then we'll reach out to the school and child care center and do some additional outreach there and say, hey, a member of the community has nominated you to participate. We'd really like you to sign up. And then for parents, asking your child's school or child care center to participate. And for everybody else, just leveraging networks, getting the word out is really what we're looking to do. So thank you all for your time, and I'm happy to stick around after and talk more about the program or answer any questions.
All right, great, thank you.
Are you Gavin?
Shannon. My information's on there, but I can give you my email.
Did anyone have any questions for Shannon?
No, I just like they're using 15 instead of 20, like the testing of the schools are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say we're not really using that as a level. We're saying there's no safe level of lead, but we're just doing extra follow-up for anything at 15 or higher to actually make sure it's been blocked off and not being used. Yeah. And that'll probably decrease to 10 in the near future with the lead and copper rule.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I do want to acknowledge on the record that we do have County Commissioner Brittany Thornton here with us this evening. Welcome, Commissioner.
Yeah. Thank you. I just, if I may, just ask a number of different questions. I just working from the last slide towards like the beginning, you talked about the public results sharing. So when I hear that, I hear a public platform that could list that my daycare facility has led, compromised something, and that could negatively impact people's interest in being able to like patronize my business. And so I'm just wondering, really around the remediation, like what resources can you commit to persons that are tested and actually have an issue?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll say that is probably the biggest barrier to childcare facilities in particular signing up, is they say, if there's something that comes back high, my parents are going to know about it. I'm worried about getting shut down, all of these things. And this program is funded by this EPA grant, and so it does require that public results sharing. And so while I understand that concern, one of the things that we try to communicate is how this is a proactive thing. So, for sometimes, on some other programs, we've seen really good success with offering like certificates that child care facilities can display that says like, I got my water tested and whatnot, as like a benefit for them for participating. We really try to have the messaging be, it's really a positive thing to do and it's a proactive thing to do. And we're doing this because we want our child care center to be somewhere where there's safe drinking water. But the other thing is that we do need remediation support in order to be able to mitigate things. And so with this program, now I think there's between $20,000 and $50,000 that have been diverted just towards providing fixtures and filter replacements specifically for child care centers. And that funding is going to be eligible for people that sign up for the program and complete the program and complete the sampling. And then if they need to order fixture replacements or filters, they're able to do so as long as it meets the requirements of the grant, which is that it has to, any fixture has to meet Build America, Buy America standards. So we've gone through and talked to a lot of different plumbing vendors and come up with a list of ones that meet that certification. And so the child care facilities are provided with that list, and they can choose what would work best for their facility based off of that list.
And so that list is developed, I mean, you're talking about 20 to 50,000 statewide, which is just nothing. The list that you have, do you have a number for Shelby County?
No, but we're working through prioritizing, and a lot of Shelby County facilities are higher priority in terms of working through the order that we're going to contact child care facilities across the state to let them know about the program. The program is a couple months old right now, so we're kind of in the infancy, and that's what funding has been diverted right now as we kind of get this rolled out, but there could be more to come in the future.
Because I'm thinking, Madam President, like what would it look like for a commissioner to create a District 10 initiative that has us, you mentioned that you have the emails for the operators. Is that exhaustive for Shelby County? Like, or is that just an optional thing that they're providing that information? Because when I'm talking to First Aid, I'm talking to MSCS about pre-K, like I've wondered, is there a registry for our daycare operators? And so that's fascinating that you have emails. If you could just like geomap like my district and like say, oh, you have 56 registered. Is there a registry or is
Yeah. So all of the data is from childcare licensing, and it was a little bit tedious to go in and get every single email address, but we could certainly, display all of this in GIS or something and look at it, on a map so that we could, so if you wanted to promote the program to specific childcare facilities within an area, that would definitely be possible.
Yeah, I mean, I could see an initiative if we wanted to pilot something in District 10, if they could give us like where the businesses are licensed, then it's nothing for us to set up a get certified campaign and like go to each of the facilities to be able to just list, how 4%, 80% of District 10 businesses have been sampled.
Yeah.
And then I just would love to get on a call with y'all just to figure out the remediation piece, because I don't want it to be punitive to specifically Black-owned businesses.
Yeah.
And I just know having that scarlet letter, it'll just be something like, girl, I don't see your child over there. They got leg compromise. You just don't want that narrative. So just curious, like what we're finding, how much the costs are. And the hardest part is really when you name an issue, where do I go now? Like, do I just go get my uncle to fix it? Or is there like a specialized person? Like, that needs to be able to come and make sure that we actually fix the issues that are identified.
Yeah, and it's hard because the issues kind of run this whole spectrum. But one of the things that we can certainly provide through the program, and I know that we'll have good funding to support, is and it is a quick response, is filters, especially when it's like a very easy install. So if it's something like a faucet mounted filter or a pitcher filter, especially for the childcare facilities, those tend to work really well. So it can be something where it's as simple as they get results back. If there's something that's elevated, we can turn around and get a pitcher filter to them in a couple of days, and they can still be using that in the interim as we think through what a longer term solution is for replacing a fixture or something. Those are $20 to $30 a unit, and so with the funding that's available right now, like that's something that's very tangible, that I feel confident that the program can provide. But yeah, this is kind of exactly what we're looking for, is support from being able to get the word out there about the program in a meaningful way. Because if we just pick up the phone and say, we're calling for the Tennessee Lead Testing Program from TDEC, people are like, what's that? Who's that? Never heard of that. So yeah.
I mean, and just to pivot, I've been itching to work with young gifted and green.
Yeah.
So it's like when we think about the parents and what it could mean for their residents, their residential side of things. And I know I've followed y'all and y'all have talked about that. Like, it could just be really interesting to my district is a part of the urban core, a lot of aged homes,
Historically redlined.
Right, exactly. Like homes that haven't really had a lot of upkeep or major maintenance for decades. And so I would imagine that it's a pretty pressing issue in my district. So what does it look like to work with homeowners of parents at daycare that have children at the daycare facilities to be able to talk about, okay, so you've done it here at the facility, what does it look like on the home front? So could there be some exciting work for us to talk about?
And I just want to say, I think right now is a good time with the schools all testing positive. And a lot of these schools are the same ones that tested positive in 2022, 2024. And it's like, did you not take it out? What happened with these schools that were tested and found positive 2 years ago? And once again, they're back on the list. So this, I think, is good for the parents to know when I send them to a daycare, it's a safe daycare. And so that transparency, I think, is good, especially when there is a lot of things you can do. Provide bottled water, put a sign up, do a water filter, do a water dispenser. So a lot of these low cost options, I think right now it's good for the parents to know that the daycare is taking those steps to make sure their kids are being safe before they go to the school that's obviously not doing what they're supposed to because they were tested, found high, and now they're high still. So,
if I may, just as a final point, is there any connection between lead and the opioid crisis, per chance? Because there's a pool of funds at the county level, but I'm just trying to figure out if we could position it. I feel like you could make a case.
I mean, you can talk about body burden. I mean, and the cumulative impacts of lead exposure and how opioids can exacerbate some of those symptoms.
It's been shown to impact behavior, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Right.
What about the county commission money?
Linked lead exposure with gun violence that came out recently, but I haven't seen anything specifically about linking lead exposure and the opioid crisis, but there could certainly be studies out there.
I don't think you have to go too hard to convince the county, but I think you just have to go after it. So that could be a workable place. We got $1 million that's just kind of dumped off at the county level, and nobody really fights the bullet because you have to just kind of be savvy to get the dollars. But I think it could be really interesting for us to set something up. So.
And then the county commission, the money each commissioner has to go for certain, was it 100,000 or is that city council?
We all have discretionary.
The discretionary funds to go into districts to help provide, some leverage for some of this money that's available.
Looks like they should be working on your gifted and care.
Hey. Or in this instance, for the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission.
Is the commission incorporated as a nonprofit?
No, we're all volunteers. Just great citizens.
Okay. Well,
unfunded.
We would need a nonprofit partner to be able to move monies, but yeah. I'm excited. I didn't know that the state had any vested interest in lead. So
I do.
The world is exciting too. Thank you for what you do.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, this was great. So we got some follow-ups. I'll make sure to do some connections there with Commissioner Thornton. But this is really good.
And I do want to add one point, when
Yeah.
you're doing these testing this week, I know y'all do have some filters, but if it is a larger daycare where, we have the filters and the dispensers right now that can go into some
Oh,
of these
yeah.
daycares. So if there's something that's an emergency, that we do have, 34
Mm-hmm.
dispensers with 4 water filters that could go immediately into a school.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think the samples that we're collecting this week we should have the results back in like 2 weeks or so. So as soon as we have the results back, we can touch base and let y'all know, and of course they'll be available online as soon as we get them too, but we can just reach out and kind of talk about, any findings and next steps.
And one last question, under the lead and copper rule, is daycares ever gonna be, is that anything that they will be required to be tested in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the requirements for the lead and copper rule improvements, so this is now totally separate from this program, right? But what the LCRI requires starting after the November 1st, 2027 compliance deadline is that water systems have to make 2 good faith attempts to all of their schools, public, private, all schools, and childcare facilities, both childcare centers and in-home, that anything that's licensed. They have to make 2 good faith attempts to sample. And if the child care facility or school says no, or if they ignore them and are non-responsive, that still counts towards their compliance. So they have to offer it, but the schools and child care facilities don't have to accept, because I think the thought process there with EPA's rule is probably that, it is private property and how far can the water system kind of go, but they do have to make those 2 good faith attempts. They have to publish it annually in their consumer confidence report and kind of advertise that they're doing this. And then they are supposed to reach out to everybody in their service boundary within 5 years, doing 20% of the schools and child care facilities each year.
What about facilities that have their own testing? Do they have to report that to you? Because I know some churches and people have contacted me about sampling. So they don't have to report.
No, it just is schools and childcare facilities, and we get a lot of questions too from homeowners that hear about the program and say, hey, can you send me a kit? I'd like to, sample my house. And unfortunately, we can't use the funding for
No,
that.
these are daycare centers I'm talking
Oh,
about. They didn't want to get in the program.
Oh,
So
okay.
they did it on their own. So do
Gotcha.
they share that with you?
There's not really a mechanism to
Don't
do
have
it right now. Yeah, there's
I think-
nothing they have to do,
I
and they
think
don't
what
really
you
have a way to
mentioned
collect the
Is the
data.
reason they didn't want it to be.
Right, to be public, and yeah.
But just to be clear, you're saying now that even those that did it independently, they still have to have the 2 faith efforts applied for their location, correct?
The water system will have to make 2 good faith efforts after November 2027. The only time that a water system can get a waiver for doing the sampling is if there's another program that the water system has already worked with. So like this WIN-funded grant program, if a water system were to say, hey, we want to work with you all and get the schools and daycares tested ahead of the November 1st, 2027 requirement, that they could do the sampling through the WIN-funded program now, and then the water system would be exempt from having to do that in November 2027. They get a waiver if they try to do it early, because earlier is better and based off of the rule. Yeah.
One additional question. I'm sorry if you covered this before I got here. So the published results, is it just basically a data table, or is it presented some other way? And how is it broken down by the county?
Yeah. Can I show you it afterwards? I can show you online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. That was good. I'm so glad you came.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank y'all
Some good
for having me.
questions.
Sorry if I took up too much of the time.
No, you didn't. This was
Shelby
great.
wants to be your exemplary.
Yeah.
Your exemplary county.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, and do please stick around because yep. All right, awesome. So we can go ahead and move forward with the agenda. So going into all business, updates on the legislative session at this point is preparation for the 2026 legislative session. So the blood lead level bill will be reintroduced. We did have a successful meeting with the American Association for Pediatrics. Did I get it right this time? Who are all on board to support, as well as what's the name of the other organization, Sharon? The Tennessee Childhood. You know I mess these acronyms up. There's another statewide organization that also is in support. And then I actually today had a conversation with a doctor in Nashville, that's also trying to garner support, from other pediatricians, across the state to support the bill. So at least we do have some time to try to get some more people, one, knowledgeable about what the bill is, and then hopefully having, some folks that can do some convincing before it actually, goes to the floor in 2026. There were some adjustments that needed to be made. So if you went out today to look at the bill that actually went on the docket, but it stalled, um, it's the same bill from last year, so it didn't have some of the modified language. So, but that's because they filed it like right at the time, like where it was almost over with. So I think it's a caption. It was a caption bill. So just wanted to put that out there that there's some revisions that need to be made to the bill that was introduced in 2024. Um, so that's the update there. Any questions about that bill? I did have kind of a wild question that I wanted to get everybody's insight on. While yes, I think we should, advocate for this state level, I'm wondering, what if we started local? Like, what could that look like? Do you think we could do something local? I don't even know.
I mean, the best thing to do is, well,
I'm like, cause where would it go through?
yeah,
Because would it go through like the school board? I don't know.
since it's
It
testing
comes with money.
children,
You would
yeah.
have to pay for it.
Yeah.
How much, like, how much is it, like, on average, Dr. Barnes, like, for a test?
$4. Not much.
Oh,
Not much.
hmm.
And that's for capillary testing.
Okay.
Venous,
Okay.
15, so if they're positive, you have to get a venous to confirm.
Can can they do testing?
They can, 12 months and 24 months. That's it. They don't test any other age. Now, if they ask for EP and DST,
Hmm.
they will do a lead testing. But they
Okay.
have to specifically request that for the child, for them to do that test.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the risk assessment that they ask to see if you need to be tested, it's so generic that a lot of doctors, they answer one question, no, then they're not testing. They don't have to test every child if the
No.
risk assessment doesn't come back with a reason to test.
And there's no follow-up through it.
Right.
They'll fill out the questionnaire, but if they answer yes to 2 questions,
Mm-hmm.
they still just go through the process. They don't do that test.
Right.
Hmm. Do y'all think that's something we could do though?
I mean, I think that's where, Dr. Yon and all are working with Lavonner to try to get more awareness to the doctors to test more, but as far as it being required, I don't think that a local level is gonna.
Okay. Okay. I just want to ask.
It would be nice.
I know it would be nice. Okay, so we'll just focus still on the state. The next one, and y'all, my apologies. I still need to follow up with the Sierra Club, to talk to. Oh, sorry, you got it.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
One quick question. So, like, if they were to proceed and do the individual testing, what would be your goal with that accumulated set of results?
They would. So if a child comes back with elevated levels, then they would have to get like support to lower the levels. So they would need like medical support.
No, I get that. I guess
Oh.
what would that process look like? Would that be then done at the individual parent-child level, or is that something that will be sort of shepherding through the community through some type of information program?
So you said, so like if a child like had an elevated level, are you saying like would the onus then be on the parent to like navigate the process, like to
Yes.
support the
Or are
child?
you looking at some more broadly defined if you see concentrations in certain areas, sort of leveraging that concentrated area for community-based support or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. The resources are very bleak. Um, I know LeBonner. Oh, go ahead.
And then where the city led program, and Shelby County led program can help as far as
For the
Sign up
remediation,
for
but this is about
remediation.
universal blood lead testing. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about getting the house tested. We're
No, he
talking
was
about,
asking what do
No,
they do
for
if the
the
child.
individual.
it would still go with the doctor-parent relationship. I mean, if it's high enough, they're gonna go through what they need to, chelate. I mean, that's with the doctor. It's that the kids aren't getting tested. That's the problem. How do we require universal blood lead testing so we know that the kids are elevated?
What in your question, after they've been tested, what they get help
Yeah.
from? Okay, and that's where the next thing you need to do is find out how the child got exposed. I mean, to get to the doctor, that is what, how did they get exposed? And that's where the abatement programs come in. And that's where working with,
Yeah,
my
so you
organization-
really need
That's
you
what
need
gets back to-
wraparound services.
That gets back to my broader concern is like how do you
Which,
what is all this?
so CLEP and the health department, they get notified by the doctors if they're elevated, and they're doing that wraparound. They're doing the education. They're doing that to find out where they're being poisoned. So that's being done. It's the kids aren't being tested. That's the issue.
But
And I'll
y'all
say
don't
just
do, y'all
specifically-
do home inspection if the child is inspection.
No.
So that's what I'm saying. That's, to me, that's what's missing.
Right. The
We
state
need a
was-
comprehensive wraparound model,
Yeah.
Yeah.
essentially.
And that's the role we wanted to play, and that's what we've been doing, which is doing inspections, doing those things, trying to figure out how the child got exposed. And one of the things that we did is that there's a lot of communities where the kids are getting exposed to just lead in the community. Central, for instance, those bridges, I tested those bridges, they're very, very hot, 50 with lead dust around there, 2100. So walking through there on a windy day is a bad thing.
Yeah, the depot, the Firestone, railroads, any of those. I mean, it's going to be high levels.
Okay.
But we got to know that they're positive. We got to get them tested.
Wow.
And I'll just say, the health department is the only one that tests 0 to 18 years of age.
Yeah.
So that's a barrier too.
Yeah.
And we fund any child 7 or older, we get that cost for their parent.
Get them tested.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is another like item later on the agenda, but let's circle back to that and put a pin in that and come back to it. But nevertheless, we do need the state to actually be in alignment with the new lead and copper rule improvements, because the threshold it was always too high. But it needs to be in compliance. So the rationale for the legislators saying that they didn't necessarily think that it was the best idea to try to get an amendment to the existing bill, because we don't want our legislature to roll it back, because if you start putting too much attention on it, then we might lose the law altogether. And a better avenue may be to actually work with the state agency to try to update a rule. So we'll try to go that way and see what happens. If it does happen, then it wouldn't go, because the next testing year, what year is it right now, will be in 2027. Yep. And that is the magic year, because everything rolls out in November 2027. So that's the update there. Hopefully, I think our next meeting is in October. So I hope to have some updates at that meeting. All right, next item under old business, LPC seats and status of recommendations. So we currently have we have one inquiry that has still not been answered. The first inquiry was about seated electeds, particularly on the county side, being on the LPC. And so what I heard back was it technically still will require the same process that we all will go through, where it would have to require a recommendation, or excuse me, a nomination from Mayor Lee Harris to County Commission, and then County Commission will confirm. Same for both county commissioners that want to join the LPC, as well as City Council as well. So there are two recommendations that move forward from this body. One, Councilwoman Dr. Michael Easter Thomas, and then also Commissioner Brittany Thornton. For the other recommendation, for Sarah Houston from Protect Our Aquifer, she was actually nominated for another commission for the Air Board, and she declined. So I'm not sure that that recommendation for the LPC will move forward. Um, those are the only recommendations that I am aware of at this time. I don't know if, like, if other people have submitted an application, but those are the only two that I've been made aware of. Also, I learned from Mayor Harris's team, I thought that my term was done and I was going to retire. Um, my term ends in September, and this would be my second term. However, his team said that I can actually be on this commission for a max of 10 years. I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel. So I'm not sure what the future holds. I just found that out 2 weeks ago. So I'm just going to sit with that because I've been in here for a minute. Um, but those are the updates on LPC seats. I'm assuming that they're going to have to move fairly quickly to get this last set of seats filled because, I mean, Mayor Harris, he terms out next year. So, and we definitely want to still keep it going, and hopefully that the next mayor that comes in will still keep the LPC. So we shall see. Um, any questions about that? Y'all know anybody that want to be on the LPC?
I mean, I think from robust engagement, we could lift that up as an opportunity for people to get involved.
Okay.
Are there any legislative priorities going into our for the soon to be turned out commissioners? This is our last legislative pass at the state and federal level. And we haven't really done a great job of going in with strong legislative asks. We I don't know, it just hasn't been very robust. So I'm kind of telling people as I'm learning people's agendas, we talk about funding for the program, I think $1 million across 95 counties. It's just not enough to be serious. And so what does it look like? And how do we size up, who are the sponsors? Where do we need to get additional buy-in to be able to get something on the floor? So I would love to be a part of legislative conversations.
Okay. Yeah, because it's been a while since we went before county commission. I feel like it was maybe 3 years ago. I know we presented, this is before you were in office, but I know we um, proposed a pollution reduction in investment, and that's kind of like more comprehensive. But it's been a while since we revisited that. So
Say it was 2019, and that may be me being crazy, but it's been a while.
Yeah, well, I did more than one. I think
Yeah.
I think we did one maybe like 2021.
Maybe it was 2020.
Yeah, because I know it wasn't the fresh COVID year. I think it was 2021.
Right.
Okay, but that's good feedback, and I'll have a note to self to follow up on that. Um, all right, the next update. So we did finally hear back, praise God, about the RFP that was canceled. So from my interpretation of what came from council, is that the funds are aligned and it did go to the health department. Um, That was our bottom line, is that it was aligned to what the resolution indicated. It is aligned to environmental justice. From my understanding, it's still going towards lead. It's not ideal, because this whole thing was brought forward with community, and thinking that it will go to actual community groups. That, the onus is on the county, for not doing their due diligence with that. Uh, it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people were disappointed, about that. Hopefully, if something like this comes forward in the future, it would be prioritized a little bit better. The transparency from the beginning, with this resolution and this funding was atrocious. It took a year and a half for us to figure out where the money was. Um, and essentially, the commitment that was made, from some Shelby County staff was not honored. So even though, I'm glad that the money is aligned, like that cannot happen again.
Yeah.
That was very disrespectful,
And I just
to
want to
community
add
members.
that Shelby County Housing asked if they could apply to it and were told outright, no, this money could not go to a county agency. It had to go to an EJ organization within Shelby County, and then it was given to a county agency. No, no. But that's where the issue was another county agency, which did align, was asked about applying for the money and was told outright, no, this money had to go to a nonprofit. And then you had nonprofits apply for the money that were qualified, and then it was given to the county that was said it couldn't go to.
Yeah, it was just real messy,
It was
and
messy.
I hate that happened. But at least we got an answer. It took a long, long time and a lot of ignored emails, even from seated elected officials. It just was kind of nasty. And I hope that it was some lessons learned from that, because that just was not ideal. Um, Anywho, we'll move on to the next agenda item. So blood lead level data report presentation request. So we put in a request, with the health department. I know Dr. Taylor did one. Was it 2023? I think December 2023.
We were here, so we were.
Yeah,
It was
December. It was towards the latter part of the
Okay.
year. So we are due for another one. Dr. Barnes, you got?
Initially,
Mhm.
me and my team were gonna do it, but we have new administration now.
I know, I forgot about that.
So I have followed up to see,
Mhm.
and I'm waiting to see back if if we're gonna be allowed to do that or if
I
it has to be.
understand. I understand.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Barnes. So we'll be patient, but still have the ask out there. Thank you, Dr. Barnes. All right. To the next update. All right. So this is a positive update. So there are two bills, on the House side at the federal level that's on the docket to, roll back or block the EPA's lead and copper rule improvements, which rolled out in October of 2024. The positive news is that the current administration, is actually prepared to defend, the rule, which is great. There is actually a lawsuit that is currently pending, um, against the lead and copper rule improvements, and the core of that pushback is around the timeline. So there is a 10-year deadline, essentially, to complete all lead service line replacements. And so the entity that is suing is actually wanting that to be extended even up to far, even up to like 20 years, which, man, that's no. That's like two generations. So that is positive that the administration, is looking to, defend the rule. Also, there has not been any traction with either of the two House bills, and in my opinion, I don't anticipate, that it will get very much traction, especially since the administration is in support of the rule. So fingers crossed. Yes. Right. Any questions about that? Nope. Okay, next update, the Homeless Safety Tax Credit Act. I did have an opportunity to speak with Congressman Cohen's office. They are planning to reintroduce this bill. Just to give a quick summary of what this bill entails, essentially, it gives a tax incentive to like property owners, landlords, to do investments in lead remediation. Is broad on purpose in the bill, where we're hoping that people will actually be incentivized to address indoor plumbing. That's a big deal. Also, in addition to that, it will also be inclusive of like lead service lines as well. I know President McGowan is in support of this bill, as I am personally as well. So I'm looking forward to Congressman Cohen reintroducing this bill for this incoming legislative session. His office did share that they wanted this to um, be bipartisan. They did reach out to Senator Marsha Blackburn, and she declined to support the bill. So they will be seeking other people on the other side of the aisle, to see if there's interest. So hopefully that'll work out. I know in my personal capacity, I've been trying to help to get more awareness, particularly on the Hill, so that they can get more momentum and more support with it. I'm really sold on people being able to address the indoor plumbing. I know we are a big concern, not even just in Shelby County. You can get your lead service line replaced, but if you have like plumbing issues, it could still leach lead. So that's something that I hope will get some sea legs and actually be passed.
Yeah,
So
because even if you got lead work under HUD's money, it doesn't address the water. The only way
mhm,
it can address the water in the house is with Healthy Homes money, which there isn't enough to really do that. So this would be a big win
yeah,
because that's the only way indoor plumbing will
yeah.
be able to be done in a home.
So I know another conversation that I had with them is they were also like looking to get like diversify support. So like getting like unions involved as well. So a lot of work will need to happen to like get like more momentum around it. But I'll keep everybody updated on how the bill is moving and when they actually reintroduce it. Any questions, comments on that item? Okay, coolio. All right, update on the drinking water and clean water state revolving funds. I did get support from Protect Our Aquifer to request an update from MLGW to see if they actually got the state revolving funds. I think that they had applied for about 8 million. I want to send kudos to MLGW. MLGW has applied for the most funding in state revolving funds, specifically earmarked for lead service line replacement in the history of state revolving funds in the state of Tennessee. So kudos to President McGowan. He did deliver on that. That was something that we asked, and he did his due diligence with that. So I hope that they got it. I think the next step was he was going to like try to confirm internally to see what the status is with those funds. Um, should they receive these funds, then it will go to full service line replacement to support their pilot, which they did free replacements for folks. So fingers crossed, because this is going to be a real expensive investment. I don't know what the future holds for lead service line replacement funding. I know there was a lot of money that went out with the Biden Harris administration. So it's a bit early, so we don't know, what funding may look like moving forward, and we don't know what state revolving funds will look like either. But I'll try to provide, updates as I hear them. Um, any questions on that item? Cool beans. All right. Ooh, update. Okay. Community request for a resolution mandating licensed plumbers in Shelby County. Commissioner Thornton, you want to give an update? You got an update on that?
Raven.
Sure.
So I just see you on communication. I'll take ownership of it falling. I don't have capacity to be able to
I
run things down the
understand.
road, so I put my assistant on it and CC'd you on it. I really
Okay.
think between you and Raven, like y'all can get it to where I'm just the person to get on the floor. So
Yep.
she lists out the concerns and limitations and pros, and then she left it open ended to say, let me know if you would like to discuss potential alternatives or refinements that would help balance enforceability with public health goals, which is kind of annoying because I was explicit that that was the interest. So just leaving it there,
Okay.
I communicated in our meeting that I wanted it to advance in lieu of all the things that she was saying were some objections. So she's laid them out in whatever the group consensus is of how we should move forward, or if there's another entity we should bring in, just let me know.
Okay. And to give some context, sorry, to what this item entails. So we actually had a public comment. Ooh, I don't know when it was at this point. It was earlier this year, where essentially for Memphis Like Gas and Water, MLGW, when they do any type of disruption, if they do like street work, for example, and there are lead service lines like in the vicinity or like on that street, then they actually give like notification to like residents that there might be a disturbance while they're doing whatever service or work that they're doing on the street, just to make sure that people take appropriate precautions. And so the issue is for independent plumbers that are not working with MLGW, that like just somebody hired on their own, they're not providing like those type of disclosures. And so from a point of equity, essentially we're wanting like all people that are doing like any type of underground work, like with underground water infrastructure, to also provide that same type of disclosure to residents. I thought that it was not that big of a deal, but I'm not an attorney. So I'll follow up and take a look at what you shared. And then I'll also share with all the LPC members.
Can I ask just to follow up? So
Mhm.
MLGW, the policy that governs, you said that that's their practice.
That's their practice. I don't know if it's a policy, but that's their practice.
Well, if we could try to ask if it's something written that we could just replicate and just put into the ordinance, that
Okay.
would be helpful. And then, we technically only govern unincorporated Shelby County. We show deference to the munis. So I'm just curious, like, if this is something that we want all of the municipalities to implement, or do we want to do a joint ordinance with the city of Memphis? I haven't seen many joint ordinances with like the city of Bartlett, or, but just figuring out if we want to do anything joint beyond just Shelby County.
Yeah, because for plumbing codes, if they're in Bartlett, do they not have to get a Shelby County code?
I think that's some of the
code?
questions the health department is like, is this really under our purview? And so I don't know, if you're talking about the health department, then yes, Shelby County. But if there's any other division that's implicated, we would just need to kind of look to see governance. Because if it's quasi-government, if it's a jointly run entity, then we would need to bring the city in.
This just like when y'all are doing permits for plumbing out in the Shelby County, it's still Shelby County codes that are issuing the permits, right? It's not like Bartlett or
So
Millington.
when rehab was doing stuff, I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
If they were out in like Collierville somewhere, it seems like they have to consult with the Collierville.
With the Cargill codes, so that's a great point. Yeah.
Just want to. A lot of times people feel like we're ganging up on Memphis, and then sometimes people fall short and just focusing on Shelby County and not bringing in the munis. So just if we could just vet that to just ensure like that across the board in the spirit of equity that we're engaging everyone that needs to be a part of it, and that'll be helpful.
Okay. And I'll be transparent. This is not my ministry. I was just responding to a comment from somebody from the general public. but I'll do my best.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So I'm just following y'all's lead, but just wanted to kind of put those tidbits out there.
Yeah. I
And if
can
you can give me a
also,
lead, then I can
yeah.
give you information. So if there's more like this is the person that can answer it, then we can
Mhm.
just queue them up. Just CC me on the email.
Yeah, and I can also get an attorney, not like an affiliated law with the county. I can get an attorney that kind of specializes in that. I can get somebody to like just kind of take a look at it and give like some insight.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay.
I put my assistant's email on the sign-in sheet. If you could just put her on there,
Okay.
she's the person that's helping me like not miss these communications.
Okay. Cool. All right. Any questions on that item? All right. I got all the homework. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Okay. Follow up code violations of blighted property with lead paint. I actually don't have any updates on that because I didn't get a response back. I think so essentially to give some context to this, um when we do canvassing work, in which we all know this, we have a lot of blighted property throughout the city, and a lot of those blighted properties have a significant amount of like peel and paint. You see it, it's all in the grass, it gets on the sidewalk, it goes to like neighboring homes. And so I reached out, it's complicated. So I did reach out to code enforcement to ask like, is that like a violation? But it's complicated. Um, so
City code.
yeah, city code. So I don't know what's the best way to address this.
I mean, I plan on bringing it up to the E team, like
Okay.
if they're, but we just haven't had a meeting.
Yeah.
So if there's a way when they start mapping a lot of this blighted property, if when we're out doing these community events and these canvassing, if we have a way of our database going to that database that says, we see this blighted property that has, lead chips, da 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 da, is that a way to trigger codes to go out and make it a complaint or enforce it to
Yeah,
the
so
owner?
we
But if you know who the owner is,
yeah.
it, like you said, it's pretty hard. But I do plan when we meet again to bring up what we could do, what we're seeing in the community. And I checked with Steve Barlow because I haven't gotten a meeting request lately, and he says that he hasn't either. So I don't know. It's kind of been on hold during the summer, so hopefully we'll start back in the fall with those
Okay.
meetings.
Yeah, but I mean, in the interim, we still send them. Like when we see the properties, we still send them to code enforcement. I mean, they can, do what they can
And
with it.
we could maybe ask Martikis or Joy Tulliadis to come and speak on what happens with these properties, with
Yeah,
these
that might be good.
complaints. What
Yeah.
what could, is this, what are they doing with them, and just kind of do an overview with what we're seeing and what their responsibility is.
Yeah. The other thing that I was trying to get some understanding with that's actually on the city side, like some of this work that they're doing around blight. Um, I need to follow back. I might need to actually follow up with Councilwoman Green and maybe Councilwoman Easter Thomas to see if there may be something that can come from that. I'll be honest, I have not gone through, or I'm not really privy to all of the ins and outs of what this potential, I guess, like ordinance will entail, but we shall see. The other thing that I do want to be cautious about, particularly in like our historically redline communities, is that people who are already in economic distress that might not have money to maintain the upkeep of the homes, like that they won't be further like demonized. So that, I was more so thinking like commercial properties, like at least prioritizing that. From a residential perspective, ooh, that could get a little bit sticky where I don't want to add on to like like existing stress to folks. So I think that's also important. But it's a ton of like commercial property that's a mess.
Or these blighted residential that are
owned by people that like live
In-
overseas,
yeah,
and but
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
still want to make sure that like if it's somebody's like grandma's house and like they literally, and I understand that personally, where they literally just don't have the means to maintain it, that like they won't get hit with like penalties and fees. So
Yes.
I like to say it's complicated. It's complicated.
It's the same
Um,
thing you're talking about with the daycares. You don't want to hurt these, these small owners that are owning these properties.
And word of mouth can work against your advocacy.
Yeah.
It only takes one person to have a negative experience to put other people on and say, no, that's not what you want. You know?
Right.
Right.
So we really have to protect our interests to be able to engage and have people buy into these processes so we know that they need to be informed around.
I mean, I'm thinking the ones that aren't doing what's right with the International Property Maintenance Code, and they're not there's so many code violations and you can't even track them down to find out who owns them. I mean, that's the kind of ones I think we need some teeth in.
Yeah. So that requires some more discussion. All right, let's go to new business. All right, so the update on, I actually did that earlier on with the update on East High School with the window replacements. So there are some follow-ups that I need to do to see if they actually did it. I do know that it was confirmed that the sod had not been put down yet. Some of the cleaning with some of the tables that are outside, and it's a few other things. So I'll follow up with the district to see where they are with the progress with that, particularly because it was a commitment in writing that said that these things were going to be fixed before school started, and we in week 2. So I will follow up there. Any questions or comments on that? I will say this. I'm gonna be honest. I'm concerned about other schools, not just this one. I know for a fact that like Snowden last year, they got some windows replaced. Snowden is old. So this is like I feel like a microcosm of a macro type of issue. So something larger needs to happen. Ugh, I don't know, something just in my spirit. But I know for certain that if this was not just in isolation, so these protocols and procedures that have been recommended, I'm scared that like they were not implemented when they did window replacements in other schools. Also, I don't want people to be on the defense. I just want to fix it. I promise. We just want to fix it. Just fix it and move in the best direction moving forward. Um, I did have an opportunity to speak with board member Natalie McKinney because East is actually within her district. I don't know if there may need to be like a policy. I kind of leaning thinking that it does need to be like a policy that explicitly states everything that you need to do. That's where I'm leaning. What we thinking? Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that's the only way it's gonna.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, because right now it's kind of like pretty please, like, will you do this, right? So that might be a next step is to think about what policy looks like. We're gonna need some help though, because that's not their purview. That's not their purview clearly, to figure out what that policy would look like. Um,
And I agree. I think it needs to be something from the commission, something because, some things with that, we're saying, they were saying you've got people breaking OSHA rules by coming on the property, and we don't want it to be like that. We want to be where the commission is going to you as formally, how can we make sure other schools,
mhm.
this is taken seriously, that they're going by these protocols and doing these things, not we're sneaking around taking pictures and trying to catch you something. I think that hurts the cause.
Understood. And speaking of OSHA, from a like labor and protection perspective, that's also a concern
Yes.
that you have people like that don't have on the appropriate PPE that's doing this work.
Absolutely.
with all of this lead. I'm very concerned about that as well. So, okay, so that's another piece of homework. Okay, moving right along because I know we're coming up on time. Okay. Woo, so with the lead, I got Bellevue, but clearly that was the first one that reported, but it's 20 plus more with the recent lead testing results for lead in school drinking water.
And 20 parts per billion. We don't know.
Did you see some of the sinks? Some of the sinks were over 200 parts per billion
But
in the
we don't
kitchen.
even, we don't
In the
even know
kitchen.
the ones that were 10s and 15s. So
Well, first of all, and shout out to Chet, that held me accountable. There were some recommendations that were made to the district back when Dr. Ray was still superintendent, and we did not get a response. Where essentially there needs to be an update to the MSCS board policy. So the way that the state statute is structured, everybody in the state of Tennessee creates their own policy as long as it like covers all the things that's inclusive in the actual statute. The biggest thing is there needs to be transparency, not just for the schools that have elevated levels. I want to know what all the levels are at all the sources for all of the schools. So for example, in DC they house every single report since 2017 for every single school, every single source. Like the actual results for every source. We need to see that.
just like Wynn is talking about.
Yeah,
doing
just
it,
like
same
what
thing.
Wynn is
And that
saying.
comes through the school system.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that stuff would just be campaign driven. Like, where is the constituent, or which of the constituent? I mean, I just think about like Memphis Live. Like, where do you
Mhm.
see parent advocates that you could just introduce the issue to? And I think that would be really receptive, actually, just
Okay.
because it's headline. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to go and build a coalition. You can just bring the knowledge and maybe the expertise to just come
Mhm.
and just speak, because they'll have questions, but they won't have answers. And then once you rile them up, you just give them the marching orders to go to the school board to replicate what another school system has done. It doesn't seem far-fetched.
And we do have all the results from what, 7 years ago or 8 years ago, because they accidentally sent all the results.
Well, that could be the legislative ask to update it.
I would like to look at all these results compared to 2 year ago results, compared to 5 year, and see if it's the same schools with the same issues. Because if they're clearly not, it can, like you said, it can be fluid. This may not have tested positive, but then something's happened and now it's positive. But I'll be willing to bet my life that a lot of these are the same issues as 2 years ago during the
And then
test.
I would just want to correlate that to what do we know about elevated lead exposure and what that does to student outcomes.
Yeah.
Any type of connection to said school has elevated lead exposure and is
Underperforming.
Exactly, underperforming, under resourced. Then now you pivot. You can go to those school leaders and say the portal is open for you to go and drive for a case that has been made time and time again, but been overlooked. So, I don't know. I still remember seeing the headlines. You just mentioned the schools, but whatever those schools are, if there's a connection to low income communities.
Oh, absolutely.
They are.
Yeah, and in addition to that, also the percentage of students receiving special education services. So there are definitely connections there. But I think the connection like with the Memphis Live with a parent advocacy group, I think that's a really good strategy. Because the first step is we need to know what's going on. Even internally, like I'm really curious, like what is their remediation plan?
Exactly.
And particularly, it is upsetting that the same school, like what happened?
Right.
And I want to know, like, is it the same source?
Fixture, yeah.
Like, so what, like, if it is the same source, if it was elevated the first time, what did you do that made you feel like it was safe to turn it back on?
Yep.
That sink that's at the school that was over 200 parts per billion, my God, like that's terrifying.
Well, the other thing with the state law is they don't specify a sampling. You guys are going to ask them to make up updates to it. I think specifying a sampling protocol would be really important because
Yep.
who knows how long the water has been sitting unused before they sample. You know, one of the biggest things that makes it really difficult to collect an accurate sample is you want the water sitting stagnant according to the EPA protocol, but not for too long. There's mixed feelings on that because the EPA specifies at least 8 hours, but no more than 18 hours. But in reality, you know, sometimes these schools sit unused for months and months and months. Yeah, the entire summer, and then you come back and you fill up a water bottle, and what's that result? But you know, I think specifying that the sampling protocol that the schools do follows the EPA 3T's guideline would be really important to include in any edits, because who knows if that sample was originally pulled after it had been sitting for just 1 hour unused, and then the next time it gets sampled, it's pulled after, you know, 15 hours that it's not used. That could contribute to that variability that you're seeing. And the other thing that I would say too is nationwide, those kitchen faucets are constantly higher than any other outlet type. Like, I've analyzed data by outlet type, and the kitchen faucets and those kitchen pot fillers and the kitchen kettles are constantly high. Sometimes it's because they're plumbed into just hot water, and we know hot water contributes higher results than cold water. So that's another thing. Sampling protocol. Are they pulling a hot water sample, or are they pulling a cold water sample? And then with those kitchen faucets too, there's really only one manufacturer that makes them, and we're still seeing, you know, those faucets come back in buildings that are 2020, 2021, 2022, still come back with elevated results. So, you know, what's happening there in those manufacturing processes with those companies that have leaded brass and whatnot, that's contributing to that too.
Yeah, I was gonna try to pull up real quick these previous Okay, yep, I found it. I think, yep.
Can I connect you to the Live person?
With Memphis Live? Yeah. And I
And then
know
I
Miss
just
Carpenter
wonder,
from
we're
when I used
talking
to work
about
at the district.
the advocacy, if it could be, you know, through the alarm that's already established.
Yep,
you
with
know,
these
so
parents.
you've got this parent group with alarm that's already, you know, been established, and have that where we're not recreating. I mean, us that have been doing this since 1992.
Not me though.
Before
Not at
all
that
y'all
time.
were born. I mean, Lord help me.
3 years old.
It's it's the same thing. It's the same education. It's the same, and it's just still, it's like this is a new news story. Like, we found this news story in 95. I mean,
No, this year is just an opportunity, and this is probably just the opportunity to be in the elected. It happens so naturally when you cross over, but it's the headline. So it's just like, you know, you have continued to educate and raise awareness, but the traction is hard to get. With the headlines, particularly when the space is under so much fire, like now it's just pivot to be able to like drive it as an issue. So,
absolutely.
and I know that the capacity is limited, so even if you just send a formal letterhead from the committee, noticing all of the electeds for the schools that have been identified, that could be an action. Just partnering with Memphis Live. So it's not Sarah, it's Bishop. He runs their programming, and he's very excited. He is really into like the legislative agenda for Memphis Live. Like, he would love to run programs. He's always looking for like cool things that the parents can get involved in. So, you know, these parental advocacy groups, they're just looking for their next public comment card. So let them, you know,
let's do it.
So it could just be a good opportunity just to elevate the work that you've already been doing and put people on to different resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we got like, I'm looking at the recommendations now. It's like almost 10 recommendations. We did have the like defining what a drinking water source is. We did mention like the EPA's 3Ts. It's a lot of stuff that's in here. Yeah. So which leads me to another thing that I wanted to ask you all about. So I know in my personal capacity, and this was a while ago, we did like a community, I don't know if it was like a workshop or like working, I don't know what you would call it, but we hosted it at a school. We hosted it at Memphis Merit. It was geared towards educators and parents. We literally like talked about these recommendations. So this is literally where these recommendations originally came from, that was presented to the district at that time. But part of it was, one, talking about like lead and all the ways in which you can be exposed, but then like connecting to like the legislative piece. I think that we need to do that again. Like if it's some type of like lead poison prevention, like I don't want to see a town hall because town hall is just people talking. I want people to like to brainstorm like what are we going to do to activate and strategize. And I think we need to do it kind of quickly. As Commissioner Thornton said, that since it's a hot topic right now, just kind of leaning into that. Because I don't want to wait until October because we know that that's lead poison prevention week, but we can reiterate it then. But looking at like something in September, like early. Lead poison prevention week is in October. Um, but y'all think that we should, yeah. Okay. I think hosting it at a school. I would go with district managed schools. I don't know. It's so much red tape. We can get a charter school. It's easier to set up
And in the loop
logistics.
that's,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Soulsville or, something that's going to be on lead lines. That's
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
Klondike.
another.
I mean,
Yeah, it's several.
there's a few we could.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I think like that would be good. Um, to get like some more awareness, community buy-in, and then like even providing capacity for parents to actually interface like with the school board and have direct ask. As opposed to just we know that lead is unsafe, but like telling them what to do essentially to remedy this. We can also incorporate this other thing like with the windows. We can incorporate that too. So I think just like a comprehensive like lead poisoning prevention something summit, I don't know what to call it.
Something during October. It's no time to plan something.
No, we want to do it quicker than that.
I mean, you do like your educational forums and then do like I think a push to get the care centers. So like we want to get 100 daycare centers signed up to get tested.
It is middle of August.
I know. I'm not being unrealistic. October.
October.
We could do it in October, but maybe we can start promoting whatever it is early.
Which is another thing. I think there's a youth component to this, right? Is there a young adult or youth?
Yeah, in my personal capacity, we have a youth EJ council.
Because I think that we need to get into the media marketing piece. I'm interested in doing the content creator cohort, and I was going to start this high school council. This is my last year on commission, y'all. So I got all these pipe dreams, and so I'm just like, it would be so cool for content to be made around this issue. Because people just, I mean, it's a great way to teach civics, right? Yeah. And so it's just like, I think that this is like a very just simple platform that you can use, no brainer. If it exists, it's hurting you, like it is what it is. People don't know about it, but I mean, just the media piece to get people talking. Like, what do you know about lead? Is there lead in your home? I don't know. Like, why don't you know? Did you know that you can get this test? You can get this filter. You can, like, what are the go-to things that people can do and get? And having a youth voice.
I always think the youth voice is good because they go home and they can tell, we're going to start recycling. We're going to start doing this,
And I'm just trying to think about y'all's capacity. So the Shelby County Youth Council could be an easy pass off for y'all because they are the youth leaders for all the districts in Shelby County. And I'm pretty sure that they're always looking for an agenda or an angle. So if you could just, I mean, as simple as a one pager and just a willingness to just show up to teach them about it, they can run with it and maybe just report back and check in at your meetings. As low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe partnerships leading into October could be something that we celebrate. Establishing a partnership with Shelby County Youth Council, establishing a partnership with Memphis Live, and noticing the electrics in the areas that have been highlighted here recent with the lead exposure at the schools. Those are very great actions.
Great if they could do something during lead week. Build up to the week and push it through media.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think this was right before you came, Dr. Burns. We did like a joint social media campaign with the district. I couldn't believe it. I don't know if they would do that again. It's been I don't know how many superintendents ago, but I like that. It was really cool. I think that Mayor, not Mayor Young, I'm sorry, Harris. Sorry, Mayor Harris. I think the county also did it, the health department did it, so we could definitely replicate that, but just make it youth centered. Yeah, okay.
You can just push in some legislation, that could be the win.
Yeah.
Looking to see when the meetings are in October and September, and just saying, okay, this is the day we're gonna be city council to elevate the issues, this day we're gonna be at school board, commission, come out, and just literally just pulling the public comment card to raise awareness could be it, and if there is a legislative ask, then getting it on the agenda.
Okay. In my personal capacity, I will be sharing this with the kids.
Okay, nice.
So they can work on that. Okay, I know we are about 5 minutes over time. The next agenda item, I actually already gave an update on that, where the current administration is going to support the lead and copper rule improvements. So I'll go to this next item. LPC leadership retreat, we never had one. I mean, like the only time that we have met is like with the public meeting. So I think, and I, would like to, you don't have to tell me now because I know we're short on time, but like talk about like the direction that we want to take as a LPC, specifically because the commission is the Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission. It's actually a lot more that we can do. Um,
You really a
but with
strategic planning session.
Yeah, and like be more coordinated like with the other like environmental stuff that happens like with the city and the county, but specifically the county because this is through the county. But y'all think what y'all think?
I think it'd be good.
Okay, I can make it cute somewhere with food.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Okay, all right. So I can follow up offline about that. Um, okay, I was just like, oh. All right. So, the next agenda item is, do we have any announcements?
My only announcement is we do have the zero water pictures. We're gonna be doing some at the next canvassing event with Young Gifted and Green. If y'all know a daycare, you have a school, that needs one, they're on the lead service line. If you have a family that needs one now, we can get those out to them.
And it's
We got the
big ones.
We got the big dispensers that would come with 4 filters, and then we also have the pitchers for like home use with 4 filters. So,
I
and they're
think
the nice zero water, and they're pretty cool because they have like where you can test your water.
For particular.
Yeah, and then run it through the filter and retest it, and so it's a nice little, they're really nice.
Okay. Any other announcements? All right. So I will call the August 13th, 2025 LPC meeting to adjourn at 7:38 p.m. Thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all.